I see as an educator myself is the facilities question as to whether or not how Eagle Ridge can fulfill the needs of the K-12 program and enrollment control, admission, things like that, that would basically make it the kind of school the kids would want to come to. It's facilities question is, I think, on everybody's mind. The things that are needed, obviously, to make it a well-rounded school, auditorium, gym, things like that, that need to be looked at. Even though I think that, I guess, for the overall issue is what do the parents want. So.
Well, I think that one important issue that's coming up is it's just been a recent one as far as I know, and that's the question of whether the school is going to accept a grant from the state of Minnesota. And I know it's been a recent issue, it's been a hot button issue, and I think some of the concerns with that are what would such an influx of money do to the school as it stands, to the the original intent of the school, as opposed to what the school could be. I think it's not an easy issue to answer. I mean, it seems simple to say, yeah, let's take a bunch of money, but the question what that actually would mean to the school and whether it would be a benefit in the long run or not is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed quickly. And I think the best way to go about doing that is to, receive input from everybody, get input from parents, get input from teachers, and the board, and really take a long look at what's going to be in the best decision for Eagle Ridge in the long run.
I'm also going to discuss a little bit about the replication. I heard some of the discussion during this Tuesday's board meeting, and I'm a little bit more aware of the decisions that the board is going to face and the decisions they've already had to face. And I look forward to keeping those lines of communication open between this year's board and this upcoming year's board that will be seated in July. There is always going to be a learning curve, but for whoever is elected. But I look forward to absorbing all that information and from previous members. They've put in their blood, sweat, and tears to this already, and there's no sense in starting from square one. And I don't feel that it's my place to really provide one single solution, but to say that I want to talk, I want to discuss, I want to be able to put in my word and what I see as the future for this school, and I'm excited for it on all ends.
I think by far that the most important issue Eagle Ridge is facing is fully living into and establishing its classical identity. Don't get me wrong, we've come a long way over the years, and in the last couple of years especially, I've seen us take, just leaps forward in really establishing and creating and implementing that identity in the school, but we're not there yet. Not all of our staff is fully trained yet. It's not part and parcel to our identity to the depth that it needs to be. We're still vulnerable in my sense that we could be swayed by, the Department of Education or by an influx of parents who don't really want classical education or just looking for a different alternative. And what I do about that is what we're doing right now as a board, reading this book, fully grasping ourselves. It's got to start from the top, from the board on down, that identity of who we are, so that, because if we don't get it, how's the staff going to get it? If the staff doesn't get it, how are the kids going to get it?
An issue facing the academy, obviously, some of our other candidates have mentioned, has been the replication of the school. Potential staff members, if we go forward in that decision, we would have to make sure that we recruit them with classical pedagogy, and at least with the willingness to embrace that philosophy. Because as Paul has said,
Everybody else does it too.
excuse me, I have said that we do have to have our classical identity in order to do that. And one of the ways to do that would be to help some of the staff, current staff, actually help replicate that school so that we can keep that classical identity.
I'm going to continue on with the classical theme. I think we've heard Pete's comments that we've come really a long way. And I think we have a lot of different, we all see different angles of what a classical education is, and it reminds me of the story about a couple blind guys who were all put in front of an elephant and said, I want you to feel this animal and tell me what it is, right? And so one blind man felt the leg, and he said, this isn't an animal, this is a tree. It feels like a tree trunk. And another one felt the side of the elephant and said, this isn't an animal, this feels like a house. It is hard and big and flat. You know, another had the tail and said this is like a broom, it goes back and forth, and one had the trunk. I think we do that with classical, right? There are some of us who look at classical education and say, it's about academic rigor. Some say it's about learning Latin, or it's about the behaviors, or it's about learning how to learn, or it's about critical thinking, or Socratic dialogue. And all of those things have a piece of classical, but we need to get a unified picture of what does this elephant look like? How can we all describe it? How do we understand what the head is and what the tail is of it?
I think an issue facing, and along the lines of the expansion route, I think in 2011 was the last recent expansion, and I know we've grown to over 800 students now. I think we need to focus on doing good at what we're currently doing and try to keep doing that instead of thinking too fast, whether or not the grant is there, we can apply for it, yes, but do we want to focus our resources all on that right now, whether, while we can, you know, currently say we know we're good, we know we're a top-notch charter school already, consistently using that resources to continue to train our teachers, you know, continue to provide those resources towards being the best we can be in classical in terms of focusing all our talents and shared resources instead of jumping too fast on the issue of, you know, let's go for the grant and let's grow again. Again, facility-wise, lots of issues to face when we consider growing it bigger than 800, so I would proceed with caution on that.
And once again, being last, I'm going to echo a lot of things that have already been said, sorry. I think that, you know, what we're all saying is that one of the key issues that Eagle Ridge is going to be facing is that we're transitioning now from being a startup school to being more of a mature school. Now, we're not there yet, but that process of maturing is going to challenge our sticking to the mission and vision, which Pete was talking about. I think that as we do that, especially as we consider things like the potential replication, we've really got to keep the mission and vision in mind and really contemplate whether we're going in the right direction towards it or not. So I'd also like to speak a little bit about now the part about how I would go about solving this. And I think that, again, some of the other candidates have already spoken about this, but really being sure that we've identified who all the stakeholders are, we've elicited what their needs are, we weigh those needs against the mission and vision, and we make our decisions